दक्षिणामूर्तिसारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमां रमणाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां शुक्लां वरदरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये आङ्गिकं भुवनं यस्य वाचिकं सर्ववाङ्मयम् आहार्यं चन्द्रतारादि तं नमः सात्विकं शिवम् ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय। नमो रमणा to everyone.
एकम् अक्षरम् हृदि निरन्तरम् भासते स्वयं लिख्यते कथम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् यहमहम् इति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति। हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वता मज्जता पवनचलनरोधा आत्मनिष्ठो त्वम्। देहं मृण्मयवत् जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तत भावशुद्धिसमये शुद्धात्मसद्भावः कोऽहं भावयुतः कुतो रतिः दृष्टात्मनिष्टात्मना सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचलशिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयम्। सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया
chanting of Upadeshasaram by Uma Shripati and Srimati Ashwini Balaji.
Namo Ramana. Idamaham pada vikyamanvaham ahamilina telaya sattaya vigrahedriya pranagitama nahame kasat tajjadam yasat satvabhasika chitvavetara sattaya hiche chittaya yaham ईश जीवयो वेशधीबिदा सत्स्वभावतो वस्तु केवलम् वेशहानता स्वात्मदर्शनम् ईश दर्शनम् स्वात्मरूपता आत्मसंस्थिति स्वात्मदर्शनम् आत्मनिर्द्वयादात्मनिष्ठता ज्ञानवर्जिता अज्ञानहीन चेत् ज्ञानमस्ति किं ज्ञातुमन्तरं किं स्वरूपम् इत्यात्मदर्शने अव्यया भवा अपूर्णचित्सुखम् बन्धमुख्यतीतं परं सुखम् विन्दति हजी वस्तुदैविकम् अहमपेतकं निजविभानकं महदिदं तपो रमणवागियम्. नमो रमण.
Namo Ramana. We will now have 3 songs from Ramananjali Sangeetam. The first one will be by Srimati V. Radha along with Vallabh Srinivasan. The second song will be by Savitri Krishnan and Jai Shri Ram Krishnan. The third presentation will be by Kumari Revathi Shankar.
Namo Ramana to all. Today we have selected a song by Sri Ganapati Muni. The music is by Srimati Suluchana Natarajan. Idrisham gunaganairabhiramam prashrayena ramanam bhagavantam. 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 Prashrayena ramanam bhagavantam. Siddhaloka mahimanamaparam. Siddhaloka mahimanamaparam. Prashtavan amrithanatayatindraha. Siddhaloka mahimanamaparam. Prashtavan amrithanatayatindraha. Ri 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 sari gari ma 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 mari sari pa ma pa 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 mani pa ni 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 ma pa ni sari gari ri sa ni pa sa ni pa ma pa ri sa ni pa da ni pa ma ri ga ri sari. Idrisham gunaganairabhiramam prashrayena ramanam bhagavantam. Prashrayena ramanam bhagavantam. Agatam sa bhagavanagavasi siddhaloka mahimatu duruha. ते शिवेन सदृशा शिवरूप शक्नुवन्ति च वराण्यपि दातुम् आगतं स भगवान् गवासि सिद्धलोकमहिमा तु दुरूह ते शिवेन सदृशा शिवरूप शक्नुवन्ति च वराण्यपि दातुं रे 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 निसरि गरीं मा 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 मरि सरि प मां प प प मनि प मनि प प मनि प नी नी नि म प नि सरीं गरी रि स नि रि सा सा नि प सा नि प म प रि स नि प द नि प म रि ग हरि सरीं ईदृशं गुणगणैरभिरामम् प्रश्रयेण रमणं भगवन्तं प्रश्रयेण रमणं भगवन्तम् नमो रमण
ಗುರುರಮಣ ಶಿವ ನೀ ತೋರು ನನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಓಲವ ಗುರುರಮಣ ಶಿವ ನೀ ತೋರು ನನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಓಲವ ರಾತ್ರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹಗಲಿನಲ್ಲಿ ನೋವಿನಲಿ ನಲಿವಿನಲಿ ರಾತ್ರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹಗಲಿನಲ್ಲಿ ನೋವಿನಲಿ ನಲಿವಿನಲಿ ಜನನ ಮರಣಗಳ ನಡುವಿನಲಿ ಜೀವನ ಮಾಲಿನ್ಯ ಜಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ನೊಂದು ಹೋಗಿರುವುದು ನನ್ನ ಮನ ನೊಂದು ಹೋಗಿರುವುದು ನನ್ನ ಮನ ಅದನ್ನು ಕಾಪಾಡೋ ದೀನವನ ಗುರು ರಮಣ ಶಿವ ನೀ ತೋರು ನನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಓಲವ ಭಯಗೊಂಡ ಜೀವಕ್ಕೆ ಅಭಯವದ ಅಂತರಂಗದ ಶುದ್ಧಿಯತ ಭಯಗೊಂಡ ಜೀವಕ್ಕೆ ಅಭಯವದ ಅಂತರಂಗದ ಶುದ್ಧಿಯತ ಆಸೆಯ ಬಲೆಯ ಇರುಳಲಿ ತೋಳಲಿಹ ಮನದಲ್ಲಿ ಜ್ಯೋತಿಯ ಬೆಳಗಿಸೋ ಅರುಣಾಚಲದಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಂದ ಪುನೀತನೇ ಅರುಣಾಚಲದಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಂದ ಪುನೀತನೇ ಮುಕ್ತಿಯ ಪಥದಲ್ಲಿ ನೀ ನಡೆಸು ಗುರು ರಮಣ ಶಿವ ನೀ ತೋರು ನನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಲವ ಗುರು ರಮಣ ಶಿವ ನೀ ತೋರು ನನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಲವ ಓಂ ನಮೋ
ಭಗವತೆ ಶ್ರೀರಾಮ.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. We are meditating on the Ramana Suprabhatam by Shantananda Puri Swami. Today we will be seeing the 24th verse. कूजन्ति पक्षिणि वहामधुरैः स्वनैस्त्वां भ्राजन्ति पद्मनिवहास्तरुणार्कभासा मोदन्ति भक्तनिवहाश्चरणामृताशाः श्रीशोणशैलभगवंस्तव सुप्रभातम् कूजन्ति पक्षिणि वहामधुरैः स्वनैस्त्वां भ्राजन्ति पद्मनिवहास्तरुणार्कभासा मोदन्ति भक्तनिवहा चरणामृताशाः श्रीशोणशैलभगवंस्तव सुप्रभातम्. Good morning, O Bhagavan of Arunachala. Flocks of birds sing your name in melodious voices. Lotuses are glowing by the rays of the rising sun. Devotees in groups happily wait for consecrated water, Charanamrita. When Bhagavan walks, Bhagavan stands. That is ashrama for us, says Y.V. Venkateshwara Rao. Ramana Ninta Ashrama Parama Punya Kshetra. It is the auspicious place. Flocks of birds sing your name. Lotuses blossom. Devotees go around you, go around the hill. They go Girivalam. Their steps go like a song, like a river which does Abhisheka to you. The sound of their feet goes. I present to you a song written by Dr. Sharda which speaks about the same concept. Music by L. Krishnan and Rajkumar Bharti. அருணை ரமணன் செல்கின்றான், தன்னையே வலம் வருகின்றான். அருணை ரமணன் செல்கின்றான், தன்னையே வலம் வருகின்றான். பூமி ரதத்தின் இதயமாக விளங்கும் ரமணேசன் தான். பூமி ரதத்தின் இதயமாக விளங்கும் அருணேசன் தான். அனைத்துயிர் உள்ள அறிவன்பாக பொங்கும் ரமணேசன் காண். பூமி ரதத்தின் இதயமாக விளங்கும் அருணேசன் தான். அனைத்துயிர் உள்ள அறிவன்பாக பொங்கும் ரமணேசன் காண். அருணை ரமணன் செல்கின்றான், தன்னையே வலம் வருகின்றான். அருணை ரமணன் செல்கின்றான், தன்னையே வலம் வருகின்றான். பன்னூறாயிரம் அடியார் அருணாச்சலத்தை வலம் வருகின்றார். பன்னூறாயிரம் அடியார் அருணாச்சலத்தை வலம் வருகின்றார். அவரிதயமாக ஒளிரும் ரமணன் தன்னையே வலம் வருகின்றான். அவரிதயமாக ஒளிரும் ரமணன் தன்னையே வலம் வருகின்றான். அருணை ரமணன் செல்கின்றான், தன்னையே வலம் வருகின்றான். அருணை ரமணன் செல்கின்றான், தன்னையே வலம் வருகின்றான். சல 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 அடியார் காலடி ஓசையாராய் ஓடுதே. சல 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 அடியார் காலடி ஓசையாராய் ஓடுதே. விமல ரமணனின் மொழிமேனி மீது அபிஷேகமாக பொழிகிறதே. விமல ரமணனின் மொழிமேனி மீது அபிஷேகமாக பொழிகிறதே. அருணை ரமணன் செல்கின்றான், தன்னையே வலம் வருகின்றான். அருணை ரமணன் செல்கின்றான், தன்னையே வலம் வருகின்றான். பறவைகள் பாமலர் பாடி செடியும் கொடியும் பூமலர் தூவுதே. பறவைகள் பாமலர் பாடி செடியும் கொடியும் பூமலர் தூவுதே. மரங்களும் சாமரம் வீசியதே, சூரிய தீபம் ஒளிகிறதே. மரங்களும் சாமரம் வீசியதே, சூரிய தீபம் ஒளிகிறதே. அருணை ரமணன் செல்கின்றான், தன்னையே வலம் வருகின்றான். அருணை ரமணன் செல்கின்றான், தன்னையே வலம் வருகின்றான். அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ ரமணா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ ரமணா. ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಶಿವ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಶಿವ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಶಿವ ರಮಣ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಶಿವ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಶಿವ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ಶಿವ ರಮಣ. Namo Ramana. We will now have a reading of articles from Forever in the Now is in the Now by Sri Nandakumarji.
Namo Ramana to all. In this, the book reading segment, we continue our readings from Forever is in the Now, the timeless message of Sri Ramana Maharshi, edited and compiled by our founder president, Sri A.R. Natarajanji. After going through the article contributed by Professor K. Swaminathan, which was entitled The Greatest Teacher the World Has Seen, we are now coming to the article contributed by His Highness Sri Jayachamaraja Odayar, Maharaja of Mysore. The introduction given to this great one is brief, but I think he needs no introduction. Jayachamrajendra Odayar is the former ruler of the princely state of Mysore, author of the book Dattatreya, and he was the ruler between 1940 and 1950. As the article will reveal, he was also very greatly respected for his knowledge of Indian philosophic tradition. The article contributed by him is entitled Sri Ramana Maharshi and the Indian Philosophic Tradition. Sri Ramana Maharshi and the Indian Philosophic Tradition by His Highness Sri Jayachamaraja Odayar, Maharaja of Mysore. Like Nachiketas, young Venkatraman, who later came to be called Sri Ramana, desired the way to conquer death. The fear of death suddenly took possession of young Venkatraman, and the lad decided to solve the riddle of life. By reflecting on the problem of life and death, and by careful experiment, the young boy understood the cause for the fear of death and the way of overcoming the grief caused by this dire calamity. He realized that it was the physical body that really perished, and that the consciousness within the body survived. In other words, young Venkatraman understood the great truth that there was an inner being, a reality that persisted even after death, and that this great principle was the witness of all the changing conditions of the physical body. In short, by an intuitive flash, he became aware of the nature of the true self. Thus, Sri Ramana came to know that the self was entirely different from the body, the senses, and the mind. Answering a devotee who was curious to know the nature of the self, the sage once said, "You ought to understand that by the self, neither the physical body nor the subtle body is meant. What you are told is that if you once know the self within which all ideas exist, not excluding the idea of yourself, of others like you, and of the world, then you can realize the truth that there is a reality, a supreme truth, which is the self of all the world. You now see the self of all the selves, the one real, the supreme, the eternal self, as distinct from the ego or individual being, which is impermanent. You must not mistake the ego or the body idea for the self." Quotation is over. Now the author continues, and just as he found the difference between the self which was eternal and was constituted of pure consciousness and the body which was perishable and made up of matter, he also discovered the difference between the self which was the pure spectator and the senses which suffered the same fate as the body. As for the mind, it was only an internal organ of sense and did not differ in any way from the rest of the senses. Summing up the difference between the sense and the faculties, the sage said, quotation begins, I am not, this is the quotation from Who Am I am not this physical body, nor am I the 5 organs of sense perception. I am not the 5 organs of external activity, nor am I the 5 vital forces, nor am I even the thinking mind. When all these are eliminated, that which remains separate and alone by itself, its very nature Satchitananda, existence, consciousness, bliss, that am I. Not less insistent was he in pointing out the necessity of completely eliminating the ego and reaching the egoless state. In arriving at these conclusions independently, the great saint was only confirming statements of the philosophic treatises of the past. This is the title that he has given, that Bhagavan's teachings are in tune with the Indian philosophic tradition. In arriving at these conclusions independently, the great saint was only confirming the statements of the philosophic treatises of the past. The Kathopanishad had pointed out that it must be man's endeavor to distinguish the self from the body. The Viveka should be the beginning of sadhana. The imperishable self should be differentiated from the perishable body. The Prashnopanishad had drawn a vivid distinction between the self and the other elements by saying, quotation begins, the mind and what is an object of the mind, intellect and what is an object of intellect, self-consciousness and what is an object of self-consciousness, thinking and what is an object of thinking. All these repair to the Supreme Soul for dwelling. The Bhagavad Gita had put forth a strong plea for the elimination of the ego by saying it was only the ignorant man who thought, I am wealthy, born in a good family, who other is there like me? I will perform sacrifices, I will give in charity, I will enjoy myself. Only an ignorant man will think like this and not eliminate the ego, says the Bhagavad Gita. Having thus become a realized soul, Sri Ramana Maharishi led from the moment of realization the life of a sthita prajna, or one of steadfast wisdom. He discarded all desires of the mind and felt satisfied in the self through the joy of the self. Atmanyeva atmana tushtaha sthita prajna. He became a true yogin, concentrated on the spirit within and unattached to all the things of the earth. Not that he did not take any interest in life around him. Indeed, it was his earnest desire to help all men around him who aspired to a divine life of spirituality and wisdom. The gates of his ashram were open to everyone to come and find spiritual solace and obtain solutions of their moral problems. He read the daily papers and useful journals, and he kept himself well informed about men and things around him. We learned that on a certain occasion, the sage started reciting lines from Saint Manikavachakar and soon felt so moved emotionally that he shed a few tears. So another way in which the philosophic tradition is confirmed by the sage, he is reading those works from the Indian tradition of the past. He mentions 2 examples. We learned that on a certain occasion, the sage started reciting lines from Saint Manikavachakar and soon felt so moved emotionally that he shed a few tears. On another occasion, he seems to have corrected one Tenamma who committed an error in reading a passage from Ribugita and who was under the impression, like others around her, that he was in deep meditation. The love and tenderness of sage Ramana became proverbial, and he won the confidence of even the animals of the ashram. His affection for the cow of the hermitage, Lakshmi, was remarkable. After the manner of an avaduta or a God-minded devotee, he suffered without protest all incident of pain. Incidentally, the Maharaja has written a book on avaduta also. His conduct in silently enduring the blows of thieves who broke into his ashram remains one of the conduct of the great Avaduta described in Bhagavata. All these activities of the sage go to show that he was not trying to keep himself aloof from society, but was in it all the time. Only he was dwelling in the self even when he was associating with worldly activities after the manner of a typical man of steadfast mindedness. Indeed, he did not believe in withdrawing himself from the society completely. Such a move did not fall in line with the theory of the self which the sage propounded. Talking of retirement and solitude, on a certain occasion, he explained, abiding in the self is solitude because there is nothing alien to the self. Retirement must be from some one place to or state to another. There is neither the one nor the other apart from the self. All being the self, retirement is impossible and inconceivable. The Maharishi was keen on pointing out the universal presence of the self and the necessity on the part of man to do his best to realize the self. Nor was it a difficult process according to him, for he said in his characteristic quiet way, the self is always there. You have only to remove the veil obstructing the revelation of the self. Once you realize the self, it becomes your direct and immediate experience. It is never lost. Sri Ramana was most logical in his approach to the problems of self-realization. He did not stop merely at calling upon devotees to attempt self-realization. He went further and explained the method one ought to take in order to realize the supreme goal. He maintained that control of mind, curbing of desires, and ethical ways of life were general aids for realization and emphasized meditation, dhyana, and inquiry, vichara, as the two essential ways of achieving the purpose. He taught that meditation or dhyana is a regular battle, for it is an effort to keep hold of one thought to the exclusion of all else. Continuing the observation on meditation, he observed, quotation starts, when meditation is well established, it can no more be given up. As for inquiry, he said it was earnest self-inquiry that really hastened the knowledge of the self. It is interesting to note in this context that the sage of Arunachala was focusing the attention of the religious minded on two important lessons which the Upanishads, the Gita, and the Brahma Sutra taught on the problems of realization. The Upanishads and Gita repeatedly speak about the utility of meditation, and the Gita in particular speaks eloquently of the yogi or the person who practices the meditation. Krishna calls upon Arjuna to become a yogi, for such a one was superior to the ascetics and superior even to those versed in sacred lore. In fact, he was superior even to those who performed actions with motive. As for the importance of inquiry, the Brahma Sutras of Bhadarayana make it the starting point of Vedantic study. The opening sutra of the text says, then, therefore, the inquiry into Brahman. All this should not be interpreted that the sage of Arunachala had nothing new to offer to the development of Indian philosophic thoughts, or that he just taught what the ancient Indian seers had done. It only shows that the life and teachings of Sri Ramana rested firmly on the foundations of early philosophic thought of India. The contribution of Sri Ramana was unique in the sense that he approached the problem of self-realization from a new angle. He did not worry much to make the point that the soul and the supreme were identical, though he had complete faith in the doctrine. He was more keen on drawing attention to the natural state of the soul. To a devoted inquirer, he said, self-inquiry, who am I, is a different technique from meditation, I am Shiva or I am he. I rather emphasize self-knowledge for you are first concerned with yourself before you know the world or its Lord. The I am he or I am Brahman meditation is more or less mental, but the quest for the self, of which I speak of, is a direct method and is superior to it. Explaining the theory of the natural state, the sage said, consciousness is the self of which everyone is aware. No one is ever away from his self, and therefore everyone is in fact self-realized. Only, and this is the great mystery, people do not know this and want to realize the self. Realization consists only in getting rid of the false idea that one is not realized. It is not anything new to be acquired. It must already exist or it would not be eternal. And only what is eternal is worth striving for. The quotation stops there. In other words, the sage was saying that the soul in its natural state was Satchitananda, and that man had to realize this by enlightenment and removal of ignorance. The sage himself brought out the significance of the theory of the natural state when he said, "To remain without question or doubt is your natural state. The self is always there. You have only to remove the veil obstructing the revelation of the self." And in this theory of the natural state, Sahajasthiti, or original state, as it is also known, the guru or the spiritual teacher did not find an important place. The sage himself had no spiritual teacher and did not believe that one was absolutely necessary for an aspirant. He maintained that there was but one guru, and that was one's own self. One must not look upon guru as a person. He is not anything other than the real self of the disciple. When the self is realized, then there is neither guru nor disciple. The theory also did not give an important place for analyzing the causes of pain as do other philosophic systems. Rather, it insisted on removing human pain and suffering. Bhagavan did not give methods of finding causes and reasons and affirming that pain is real, but he taught us the method to transcend that. A remarkable feature for which the sage of Arunachala became famous was the great silence he maintained. For a time after he obtained realization, he remained silent. It was only during the latter period of his life that he broke his silence. Of course, Mauna or silence was considered a penance by people of the past. Lord Krishna pointed out that one of the characteristic features of a devotee was Mauna or practice of silence. But what is to be noted is that Sri Ramana made it his chief instrument for self-realization and for communicating his teachings. I'll repeat that. But what is to be noted is that Sri Ramana made silence his chief instrument for self-realization and for communicating his teachings, although it may look odd to say that he taught in silence. The sage himself spoke highly of this holy practice and said, "That stage which transcends speech and thought is Mauna. It is meditation without mental activity. Deep meditation is eternal speech. Silence is ever speaking. It is the perennial flow of language." When visitors came to him and told him their problems, he did not always answer, but sometimes merely smiled at the devotees silently. And this conduct on the part of the sage worked. For many a visitor has admitted that his problem was solved somehow. Surely, this kind of silence on the part of the sage was more creative. Such was the unique personality of sage Ramana. Unlike all other sages of the past, this saint of modern times desired to help those who sought to progress on the path of spirituality. His object was always to make a man better, to make a human society holy. To make human society holy. The life and teachings of the great saint Ramana thus bear out the saying of Bhagavata. Yoga or Sankhya or righteousness or a study of the Vedas or asceticism or renunciation or sacrifice or good deeds do not captivate me. Neither vows nor worship nor holy places are able to capture me. I can only be won by the fellowship of saints, which brings to end all attachment. I'll repeat the final quotation of the Maharaja. Such was the unique personality of sage Ramana. Like all other sages of the past, this saint of modern times desired to help those who sought to progress on the path of spirituality. His object was always to make a man better and to make human society holy. The life and teachings of the great saint Ramana Thus bear out the saying of the Bhagavata: yoga or Sankhya or righteousness or a study of the Vedas or asceticism or renunciation or sacrifice or good deeds do not captivate me. Neither vows, nor worship, nor holy places are able to capture me. I can only be won by the fellowship of saints, which brings to an end all attachment. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. We will now have self-inquiry session, which will be led by Sri Dilip Simha.
नमो रमण ध्यायेत् शारदचन्द्रसुन्दरमुखम् ताम्रारविन्देक्षणम् भक्ताभीष्टवराभयप्रदकरम् कौपीनमात्रोज्ज्वलम् स्वात्मानन्दरसानुभूतिविवशम् सर्वानवद्याङ्गकम् श्रीमन्तं श्रीरमणीश्वरं गुरुवरं योगासनाध्यासितं ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रं यहमहमिति साक्षातात्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वतामच्युतव पवनचलनरोधा आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्. Namo Ramana. We will commence the Atma Vichara by listening to Bhagavan's Upadesham. I will be reading from the book Guru Vachaka Kovai, from the chapter Experience of the Truth. The topic blessed by Bhagavan is the self is eternally realized. Verse 881. The whole benefit that stands to be derived from the heart-directed inquiry is only the destruction of the false I thought. It is sheer folly to say that the benefit is the attainment of the reality, the self that shines clearly, ever attained. I repeat the verse. The whole benefit that stands to be derived from the heart-directed inquiry is only the destruction of the false I thought. It is sheer folly to say that the benefit is the attainment of the reality, the self that shines clearly, ever attained. As Nandakumarji read out to us, what Bhagavan repeatedly taught was that there is only the self, the truth. But it is not being seen that way because of this I thought, the division, a sense of division from that. So Bhagavan says that it is not that by inquiry we will attain the truth. It is only that we let go this false idea or the ignorance and see clearly that truth alone is. It is ever attained. eternally realized. As it was said to us that everybody knows the consciousness. Nobody can claim that I am unconscious. To say that, one has to be conscious. So everybody is eternally realized, yet we don't see the truth as it is. We realize that the consciousness of I am this body, I am this name form, that limited consciousness or limited identity seems to be more real for us. And we forget the substratum, the truth that makes us realize this, take it for granted. So the heart directed inquiry, when we try to go to the source of all of this, which Bhagavan calls as the heart, when we try to go to the source of it, it becomes very, very clear that it is only because of the heart that everything else is experienced, everything else appears real, everything else is recognized. And therefore, heart is real. All other things are false, imaginary notions that keep coming and going away. And therefore, they cannot be real. And therefore, the truth, which is eternal, is found to be one's own self. Therefore, Atma Vichara, as it has been said here by Bhagavan, so heart-directed inquiry, makes us inquire who we are. And by every thought which makes us go away from that with an imaginary division, Bhagavan asks us to inquire to whom is this thought, come back and realize that it is for me, the first and the foremost imaginary division. And therefore he asks us to further inquire, who am I? And takes us back to the heart. And by repeatedly establishing us in the heart, Bhagavan makes us to realize that actually the heart alone is. Everything else was only an imagination. So Bhagavan says, no matter how many thought rises, no matter what kind of thought it is, spiritual, true, real or unreal, false, good, bad, we should only diligently inquire to whom is this thought, realize it is for me, and thereupon inquire, who am I? And by the very question of who am I, the grace of the Sadguru, the grace of the Self, who is ever present, takes us back to the source itself, to the self itself. By repeated practice, the mind will gain enough strength to remain at the source. The immense grace of Bhagavan with which we have come to this direct path, for the next 10 minutes, let us do Atma Vichara. Shri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana. Thank you.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the sharing of Manana on Dakshinamurti Stotram by Sri Venkatesh Deshpande sir.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviram Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Dakshinamurti Sarambham Shankaracharya Madhyama Ramanacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Vande Guru Paramparam Vande Guru Parampara. Namo Ramana. We're doing Manana on Dakshinamurti Stotram, and the first question that should come on top of our mind is, why are we doing this Manana of Dakshinamurti Stotram? So Bhagavan says, God in the form of Guru, God in the form of Guru, with form, takes me to the formless. God in the form of Guru, with form, takes me to the formless. When I transcend form, I become fearless because I am deathless. That's what Nandakumar also read about the Maharaja of Mysore, what he had also written is about this Bhagwan experience, death experience. So he takes us to, because I am deathless. This Satchidananda Atman is deathless. So today we are doing Manana on the verse number 6. I request Sapna to kindly chant the Dhyana Shloka and the verse number 6, please.
Yes, sir. मौनव्याख्या प्रकटितः परब्रह्म तत्त्वं युवानां वर्षिष्टान्ते वसदृशिगणैः आवृतं ब्रह्मनिष्ठैः आचार्येन्द्रं करकलितचिन्मुद्रमानन्दमूर्तिं स्वात्मा रामं मुदितवदनं दक्षिणामूर्तिमीडे राहुग्रस्तदिवाकरेन्दुसदृशो माया समाच्छादनात् सन्मात्रकरणोपसंहरणतो यो भूत् सुषुप्तः पुमान् प्राक्स्वाप्समिति प्रबोधसमये यः प्रत्यभिज्ञायते तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नम इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये राहुग्रस्तदिवाकरेन्दुसदृशो माया समाच्छादनात् सन्मात्रकरणोपसंहरणतो यो भूत् सुषुप्तः पुमान् प्राक्स्वाप्समिति प्रबोधसमये यः प्रत्यभिज्ञायते तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नम इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नम इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sapna. I salute Sri Dakshinamurti, the young Guru who teaches the knowledge of Brahman through silence, who is surrounded by disciples who are themselves rishis and scholars in the Vedas. I worship Sri Dakshinamurti, who is a teacher of teachers, whose hand is held in the sign of knowledge, Chinmudra, whose nature is fullness, who reveals in himself, and who is ever silent. Manana will try and understand what's the meaning of the verse number 6, and then we'll go into details of that. On folding up all the functions of the senses, he who enters into the state of deep sleep and there becomes existence veiled in Maya, like the sun or the moon during eclipse, and who on waking up remembers to have slept, to him, the divine teacher, Sri Dakshinamurti, is this prostration. So this verse describes one of the three states of the mind called deep sleep, Shushupti. The verse that follows after this, the 7th verse, refers to the remaining two states of Swapna and Jagrat, that is dream and waking. The metaphor used here is eclipse of the sun and the moon. In ancient time, rishis knew that the sun never moves. The earth revolves around the sun. The phenomena of eclipse was, however, described in an interesting way. They had a concept of hidden planet called Rahu. It was envisioned as a cosmic snake in mythological way. Rahu was the head of this cosmic snake, and Ketu, another planet, was its tail. This cosmic snake would sneak up on the sun and devour it temporarily. Rahu Grasta, an eclipse of the sun and the moon, is the metaphor used here for the deep sleep. An eclipse of the sun and the moon is the metaphor used here for the deep sleep. When you can't see the sun and or the moon during an eclipse, does it stop shining? It's a very good question. When you can't see the sun or the moon during an eclipse, does it stop shining? You can't see it shining, but it still shines. You can't see it shining, but it still shines. In deep sleep, there is a total eclipse in the sense that there is absolute darkness on the screen of your mind. Yet the shining continues. The illumination of the mind continues. Consciousness shines, unabated, unimpeded, unchanged. The illumination of the mind continues. Consciousness shines, unabated, unimpeded, unchanged. The consciousness shines during your waking state of mind, during dream state, and it shines identically during the deep sleep, illumining the absence of activities of your mind. Just like the sun and the moon, which is grasped by Rahu, still shines during eclipse, similarly, a person who is in deep sleep, because of the withdrawal of the senses, his mind is turned off. The screen of the mind goes dark, so to speak. The senses here refer to the 5 jnanendriyas: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and the skin. It also includes the inner sense organs called antakarana. Antakarana has 4 faculties that includes the mind, mana, intellect, buddhi, memory, chitta, and ego, ahankara. However, in general, antakarana refers to the mind. This withdrawal of mind and senses is caused by Maya. Maya here requires another lofty understanding. There are 2 standpoints, individual and the whole or the total. There are 2 perspectives as well. One is at a physical elements perspective, Sthula Bhuta, both individual and whole aggregate, Second is at the subtle elements perspective, Sukshma Bhuta, both individual and whole. The ignorance, Ajnana, is also seen from the standpoint of individual and whole. From the standpoint of the individual, it is individual's ignorance, just called ignorance. From the standpoint of the all sentient being of the cosmos, it is an aggregate ignorance called Maya. At individual level, microcosm, it is called ignorance, avidya. At total level, macrocosm, it is called Maya. When you are awake, you observe variety of activities in your mind. During dream, you experience different kind of activities in your mind. Then in deep sleep, your mind is absolutely silent. When you are awake, do you have ignorance? When you are awake, do you have ignorance? In Vedantic term, this ignorance is non-recognition of the self as the Satchidananda Atman. This is avidya. So in Vedantic terms, this ignorance is non-recognition of the self as Satchidananda Atman. This is avidya. Most likely, this ignorance is present during your waking state, if you are not enlightened. If you have ignorance during waking state, Jagrat Avastha, you will have ignorance during dream state, Swapna Avastha as well. When you go in deep sleep, Sushupti Avastha, the ignorance is still present. In the deep sleep, in the absence of thoughts, emotions, perceptions, what you experience is perfect ignorance. In the deep sleep, in the absence of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions, what you experience is perfect ignorance. Knowledge is represented by light. Ignorance is represented by darkness. In deep sleep, you have the perfect experience of the darkness of ignorance. If you throw a thick blanket over your head, covering your eyes, you won't see anything. However, you are not blind. You see perfect darkness. Similarly, in deep sleep. I'll read this again. If you throw a thick blanket over your head, covering your eyes, you wouldn't see anything. However, you're not blind. You see perfect darkness. Similarly, in deep sleep, ignorance is still present, but ignorance is not something with any characteristics and qualities. So you don't perceive anything about the ignorance. You are covered over by the blanket of ignorance. Consciousness still shines in deep sleep, but consciousness illumines this blanket of perfect ignorance. Therefore, your experience in deep sleep is experience of nothing. In that condition of withdrawal of senses, including mind, screen of the mind is covered by ignorance. But the person who is in deep sleep still remains as pure existence. Consciousness remains as a reality that is. In waking state, you are Satchidananda Atman plus body, mind, senses, plus all those experiences in your mind plus ignorance. In the waking state, you are Satchidananda Atman plus the body, mind, senses, plus all these experiences in your mind plus ignorance. In the dream state, you are Satchidananda Atman without body, mind, senses, but with dream experiences in your mind plus the ignorance. In deep sleep, you are Satchidananda Atman without body, mind, senses, without any experiences in your mind plus ignorance. But consciousness remains through all these states. Very important point that Bhagavan is saying here. But consciousness remains abhuta through all these states. That means even in the waking state, you are Satchidananda Atman. In the dream state also you are Satchidananda Atman. In the deep sleep also you are Satchidananda Atman. We'll continue to do manana on these verses by Bhagavan's grace by next week. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. We will now have sharing of Devikalotra Jnana Vicharappadalam by Dr. Kalarani Rangaswamy.
ஓம் நமோ பகவதே ஸ்ரீ ரமணாய. அருணாச்சலமென அகமே நினைப்பவர் அகத்தை வேறறுப்பாய் அருணாச்சலம். Namo Ramana to all. With the abundance grace of Bhagavan, we are meditating on Devi Kalotra Jnana Vicharam Padalam, very graciously given to us by Bhagavan in Tamil. And in the last satsang we saw lust, illusion, and loss of one's prajna are different state of same avastha. And Bhagavan says, along with these three, that is the great desire for something, and when the mind comes round that object that he wanted is called lust. When that lust or the desire for particular object that is wanted is covered by lust, and it is called Maya. That is, when the true nature of the object is not realized, it is Maya. And when after taking great strain, the object does not come in hand, at that state one loses his prajna, and we call it in Tamil as murchai. There prevails a stillness. Bhagavan says, along with these three states, lust, Maya, and losing of one's prajna, the state of swapna, that is the dream, and sulupti, waking state, all should be destroyed. Only this will help for realizing the truth, the self. And the next stanza, Bhagavan says, Degam idil sukshmamai cherum uyir chittam buddhi ahankaram ahum ivai yavukkum. This body is sthula sarira, which is visible. Somewhere or the other, adi sukshama vastu, that is prana, mind, buddhi and ahankara comes and enters this body. Mind with its thinking capacity is like waves, always thinking about something. It imagines I am so-and-so, I am a mother, I am a teacher, or I am a thief. I must get lot of treasure today. When things does not happen according to one's wish, sorrow comes in. The jiva, which is experiencing this dukkha, along with his sahas, that is friends, prana, mind, buddhi, also enters this wonderful shrishti, the body. Not only that, it starts reigning over thinking. He is the body. He is the king of this body. So, after entering the body, he acts like the master and reigns and directs what to do and what not to do. They need a working place, isn't it? The place where prana, mind, buddhi is residing is the work spot of ahankara. It is ati sukshama. He imagines to be the head who directs everyone. Its decision is made to be carried out into action by panchayendriyas. In this setup, the person gets deluded, thinking that his body is he and what all is happening is related to his body only. And this ahankara completely fades, all pervading self. The jiva reigning him and directing him through the panchayendriyas is carried away by the worldly objects. He forgets that only Ishvara Chittam prevails and he is nothing to do anything. He has to simply watch. He forgets all this. Once there was a person, I tell you an example, once there was a person who was doing penance for a very long time, and Devendra gave him darshan and also gave him a magical mat to him, and he said, You can travel sitting on this mat wherever you want to go. You can go even to Brahmaloka and ask a boon from Brahma. He was so happy and he went to Brahmaloka using that magical mat and had Brahma's darshan. Brahma said, ask anything that you want. Now that person raised a doubt. Brahmadeva, great men and jnanis say, you write fate of each and every one when they are born. And things go on according to that only. Only Ishvara Siddham prevails. Nothing is in our hands. We are only puppets who dance according to the tune. You must have already written my fate also, isn't it? When I was born. Brahma said, yes, there is no doubt about it. Then, now you want me to ask what I want, what I desire. If I ask anything, will it not become a contradictory to my fate that you have already written? Will you be changing my fate? Brahma said, oh, is this your doubt? Why should I change what I have written? You getting the magical mat and traveling to Brahmaloka and standing before me and asking for a boon from me is already written in your forehead as fate. In fact, what boon you are going to ask is also predetermined. Now you will ask and I will say Tatastu and give that boon, that which is also predetermined, he said. So, it is crystal clear, nothing is going to happen what our Chittam thinks. Sometimes it may happen. That is just a coincidence of our Chittam and Ishvara Chittam. That is, Bhagavan says, Chumma iru, Sugakkadal ponga, Sol unarvu adanga, Summa porundidum Arunachala. Taimanavar beautifully says, Sollum purulum atru summa iruppadarke, Allum pagalum enakku aasai parapara. Right through day and night, I want to be calm without any action, without any thinking of anything, and that is my wish, hey Parapara. Please bless me with that. When can this be possible? When one realizes that Pranan, Chittam, Buddhi, ego, all is the Swarupa of Chit Prakasha. Eka Chitte Anniyame Endru Sindai Atrave Achintai Manniduvan Endru Madi. But we said ego, that is I am the body, with the help of Pranan, mind and Buddhi, is so strong that eclipses the truth. Considering itself as master, it directs the Panchindriyas. You see what that which gives you happiness, it says. But if that does not happen, because Ishvara Chittam is playing its role, then Jiva experience sorrow. When does that ego vanish? At what point it vanishes? Daily we are experiencing, as Venkateshji also said, in deep sleep. But once we are awake, the thought again comes. I am this body. The ego crops in. Along with it comes the Pranan, mind and Buddhi. It is very difficult to drive away this ego because we think it is our master. Then how can we drive away this other three sahas, friends? Bhagavan says the only way is just to ignore them. How to ignore? To give attention whenever the ego is bossing over. Put a question, who is this ahankara to boss over me? When the ego comes to know that we have started our search or investigation, we have started giving attention to that, that's all, it vanishes. Thedinal ottam pidikkum peyagandai. It does not have any rupa. So it is called a pay, a devil. So how was the ahankara entered the body? The way it entered our body in a sukshama way, when we start giving attention to that, when we start questioning that, in the same way, it disappears in a sukshama way. Then the body is left with the self, which is always there both inside and outside. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana.
We will now have sharing of Ramanacentre by Sri Ujjwal Jagadish.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. धर्मे नाशमुपागते त्रिभुवने पर्याकुले पापतः प्रज्ञाने परितो गिरं पतिमुद सञ्चार्यमाणे जनैः सद्भावे परमेश्वरस्य च पितु सन्देहडोलागते द्वीपकैतवमर्त्यकेकितुरग त्वामन्तर कसतां रमणाय लोकगुरवे नमः रमणाय लोकगुरवे नमः ಧರ್ಮನಾಶವಾಗುತ್ತಿದೆ ತ್ರಿಲೋಕವು ಮರುಳಾಗಿದೆ ಪಾಪದಿ ನಿಜ ಜ್ಞಾನ ಅರಿಯದ ಜನರು ಎಲ್ಲೆಡೆ ತೊಡಗಿಹರು ವಾಗ್ವಾದದಿ ಸದಾ ಪೊರೆವ ತಂದೆ ಪರಮೇಶನ ಇರುವಿಕೆ ಸಂದೇಹಿಸಲ್ಪಡುತ್ತಿದೆ ರಕ್ಷೆ ನೀನೆ ನರವೇಶಿನ ವಿಲುವಾಹನನೆ ನೀನಲ್ಲದೆ ಹಿತರಾರೆ ಮಗೆ ರಮಣನಿಗೆ ಲೋಕ ಗುರುವಿಗೆ ನಮನ ರಮಣನಿಗೆ ಲೋಕ ಗುರುವಿಗೆ ನಮನ. In this 18th verse of Ramanacentre, written by Ganapati Muni, he is praying that Kartikeya, who rides on the peacock mount, for him to come down in the human form, and this is the right time for him to come, because he sees that the dharma is deteriorating, and people because of this are deluded, and they are in the illusion, and they are not able to do the right thing, and they are filled with the wrong deeds. They have become papatmas. So to reveal to them the true knowledge, to make them pure, to make them punyatma, Ramana, you have to come in the human form. And he continues saying that in today's world, people think that speaking and giving huge lectures about the truth is the truth, is true wisdom. But that is not the true wisdom. You have to come and reveal that true wisdom which can only be explained in silence. Ramana says, in Ashtakam, he says, Vindida dunnilai vilakida endre vin talam achalama vilangida nindrai. Long ago, in the days of yore, you had come to explain this truth to the Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanat Kumara, and Sanat Sujata and other sages. You came in that form to explain that truth without any division. You came and you were the only capable person who could reveal the truth without dividing. Because when we speak, there is division. There is a speaker, there is a listener, and there's a process of speaking and listening. But in that state of supreme wisdom, there is no listener, there is no speaker, and there is no speech, and there is no listening. To reveal that supreme state when there is no division, you had to come as Dakshina Murti and teach us the truth. And still you are continuing to teach that truth as standing as that hill which is connecting the earth and the sky. You are standing as the glorious hill Arunachala and revealing that very same truth which can only be explained by silence. But this silence cannot be understood by many. There's a story when Buddha has called all his disciples and he has to give a lecture on the glory of the Supreme, on the glory of the Self, and he's silent for a long time. And the disciples are wondering, why is Buddha not speaking and giving the discourse? And Buddha takes up the flower in his hand. And one of the students says, yes, Buddha, I have understood the truth. So that was the greatness that could be explained only by truth. But many of the students could not understand this lesson which Buddha gave in silence. So out of the compassion, Ramana had to come in the human form and give us the true meaning of silence. That silence which is beyond words and the physical silence. That silence which is Mauniyai kalpol. Malarar dirndal maunamidamu arunachala. Not the silence which is like the stone, but that silence like the blossoming of the flower. While telling the story of Ahalya, one of the devotees says, Bhagavan, we hear the story in Ramayana that when Gautama Maharshi gave the curse to Ahalya, she became stone. Are they talking about the body becoming like the stone, or was it the mind which became like the stone? And Ramana says, of course it is the mind. The ordinary people think that the body became silent and still like the stone, but it was not that. It was the mind which lost the connection with the self. When the mind loses connection with the self, it becomes jada. It does not have any power. It just becomes like the kal, like the stone. And when a great jnani like Rama comes into our lives, comes into our houses, comes into our heart, at that moment, the mind again gets back its connection with the self, and Ahalya got back that connection, and she blossomed like the flower, and she became ever abiding in the heart, the self. So to teach us this glory of the silence, which is beyond the opposite of words and the silence, Ramana had to come in the human form. And in the third line, Ganapati Muni says, people are even questioning. They do not have full faith in that Supreme Shiva, the Supreme Parameshwara, who is taking care of the whole world. They do not have faith. They seem to have forgotten his presence. And this story, it's not new. This is not happening now in this Kali Yuga. This has been written in our Upanishads. In the Kenopanishad, the Devas, they won over the Asuras. They, in the battle between the Suras and Asuras, the Suras, the Devas, won. And they were very, very proud of their achievement. And they thought it is because of their power that they have won. And they were proud of their own abilities of fighting and winning the game, winning the war. So when they were in this state of pride, to teach them the lesson, that supreme being came in the form of a yaksha. And he stood at the gate of the Swarga, and the gatekeepers saw this man, glorious, shining bright, this yaksha, this person who was standing, and they did not know who it was. And they went inside the court of Indra, and they told us that there is a person who is standing outside the gate and he is not answering. He is still and silent. So something has to be done, and somebody has to come and question him and find out who is he and do the needful. So when Indra itself was about to go, the Agni Deva told, don't worry, Indra Deva, I will go and find out who it is. And then he goes out to find out who this yaksha is. And the yaksha says, I will tell you who am I once you explain who you are. And Agni Deva told, don't you know who am I? I am Agni Deva. I have the power of burning everything in this universe. I have that power. And the yaksha pulled out a small blade of grass and kept it in front of Agni Deva and told, will you please reveal your truth, your what you explained by burning this small blade of grass? And the Agni Deva told, this small blade of grass, I can burn it in a moment. So he tried burning that blade of grass, but he was not able to burn that small blade of grass, and he was ashamed of this. He had told that he could burn everything in the universe, but he was incapable of burning that small blade of grass. So he went back ashamed and embarrassed. Then Agnideva was followed by Vayudeva, and Vayudeva explained himself as he is the one who can blow away everything in the universe. And the Yaksha told, "Is that, sir? Then why don't you blow away the small blade of grass?" And Vayudeva tried to blow that small blade of grass, but he also failed terribly. And then he could also not get the answer from the Yaksha about the whereabouts of that Yaksha. So he also had to go back ashamed and embarrassed. And then various devas came out to find out, and everybody failed in their attempts to find out who that Yaksha was. And in the end, Indra itself thought, no, none of them are able to find out who this Yaksha is. I myself will go and find out who this Yaksha is. And Indra, who is called the Sahasraksha, one who has 1,000 eyes, who can see everywhere and everything, he came out to the gate of the Swarga, and to his surprise, he could not even see the Yaksha. The Yaksha had disappeared, and he understood his mistake, that he was so proud that he could do everything and he has 1,000 eyes. But if the Supreme does not wills, even the 1,000 eyes may not see the truth. So he realized his mistake and he surrendered to that supreme power. At that moment, Mother Parvati, Haimavati, came in front of Indra, and she revealed, as the Guru, as the loving mother, she revealed that it was that supreme being who had come to reveal his truth. It is only by his power that everything happens. The fire burns, the wind blows, and it is by his power that Indra was able to conquer the Asuras and do all the work that he is doing. So remember that power to teach us this faith in that supreme power with whose presence alone everything is happening. That Leela of the Kenopanishad was played. Similarly, when Muruganar Swami was writing the story of great devas, he came to the story of Shiva, and he was writing the story of the sages in Darukavana, where the sages thought that by their action, by their chanting of mantras and their homa and havana, they could create anything, they could sustain everything, and they could destroy, and they were very, very proud of themselves. And to teach them a lesson, Shiva came in the form of a mendicant, and that mendicant who was so beautiful and charming, the Rishi Patnis got attracted to that mendicant, that beggar, the naked beggar who was standing amidst those rishis. And those rishis wanted to destroy that mendicant, and they created a ferocious tiger, which that mendicant happily fought with the tiger and wore the tiger skin as his dress. And they created poisonous snakes, which he wore as his ornaments. And they created a dwarf demon called Muyalagan, whom that mendicant fought and made him fall on the ground and started dancing on the back of that little demon. And at that moment, the sages realized that this is not an ordinary mendicant who has come, and they surrendered to that mendicant and told and prayed to that mendicant to teach the truth, which would give them the true knowledge. And at that point, Muruganar Swami came to Bhagavan Ramana and told, Bhagavan, you are Shiva, and you have to write the answer. You have to write the Upadesha, which was given by Shiva to those sages. And Bhagavan Ramana wrote the Upadesha Saram, which says, Karturagnyaya prapyate palam karma kim param karma tajjadam. It is only by the power of that Kartru, the creator, we get phala to all our actions. But we think the actions are full of life, actions are powerful. And Ramana questions as Shiva, is action powerful without that supreme being who ordains the fruits? To revive the faith in that supreme ordainer, supreme creator who is taking care of the whole universe, Ramana has come into our lives, listening to the prayer of Ganapati Muni in this verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the sharing of Sri Ramana Ashtottara written by Vishwanatha Swami by Dr. Sharda.
Namo Ramana. Prostration to Ramana, shining as a self in all beings. By the immense grace of the self manifest as Ramana, we are meditating on Vishwanatha Swami's Ramana Ashtottara Shatanamavali, the 108 names on Bhagavan, put together as a garland and made into a beautiful verse poem. We are meditating on the Nama, having journeyed through Bhagavan's childhood, the place of his birth, the reason his divinity, the reason for his birth, the place of his birth, the greatness of his parents, and coming to his transition from Tiruchuri to Madurai, the glory of Madurai, his sporting in Madurai, his boyhood life in Madurai, and the gradual awakening, in one sense gradual, because step by step Arunachala entering his life in a visible manner through a relative declaring that Arunachala is a place on earth, it is Tiruvannamalai. And then he's reading the Periya Puranam, and finally the Mahashakti Nipatena Prabuddhaya Namaha Paramartha Vide Namaha. He's becoming enlightened by that great power descending. We meditated on that, the Mahashakti Nipata as the descent of the divine power, and also as the descent of the power from the mind in Sahasrara. It's falling into, it's diving into and abiding in the heart source, the self. And this resulted in the enlightenment of Bhagavan. Paramartha Vide Namaha. We are now in the 125th year of Bhagavan's enlightenment. This enlightenment, if at all Bhagavan had had any distractions earlier to it, the enlightenment resulted in his becoming absolutely intense, Tivraya Namaha, intense in his abidance in the self, intense in his absolute lack of interest in everything else. And we also heard in Bhagavan's own account how his elder brother Nagaswami used to often poke fun at him, calling him Jnani and Yogishwarar, and saying he should become a rishi in a forest. Why was he sitting at home? He says this was happening frequently. But Bhagavan had not paid much heed to it. The young Venkatraman had not paid any heed in particular to the jibes of his elder brother Nagaswami. And he was, of course, completely indifferent to all else, he says. Completely indifferent to studies, completely indifferent to food, tasting the taste of any preparation whatsoever, any dish whatsoever, and he became indifferent to sports of all kinds. This continued, and he says sometimes, though the awareness of the self was intense at all times, sometimes the attention would be drawn or pulled back the self completely. Its charm was so great, says Bhagavan. There was so much love for that abundance. So he would get back to it. So in this state, one day he was punished by his English teacher, punished for inattention in class. And the punishment given was to write an imposition being a repeated writing of a whole set of words, a page, maybe sometimes if it's a sentence, it can be writing it 100 times or 1,000 times, whatever the punishment is. And such repetition is considered to be a punishment because the mind doesn't like to repeat things. It gets bored. And the very reason that the mind doesn't like to repeat things, it is taught to do a repetitive chanting of a mantra, which is japa. To get over its dislike for repetition and to get over its need to constantly move into variety, it is given that japa. But normally, an imposition is considered a punishment because we don't like to write the same thing 3 times, 4 times, many number of times. Now, Bhagavan, this young boy, Venkatraman, he was given an imposition to write out an exercise. Must have been a few pages because it says that we are told he was asked to write out an exercise in Bain's English grammar 3 times. He was asked to write the exercise 3 times. So that exercise might have been a few pages long. And he was writing, and he had written it twice over. Then he was struck by the futility of the exercise. For what purpose am I going to write this? For what purpose am I writing this? The great ones, Adi Shankara has written, Nahi nahi rakshati dukrinkarane, bhaja govindam, govindam bhaja mudhamate, samprapte sannihite kale, nahi rakshati dukrinkarane. So at the last moment, when the moment of reckoning comes, when the moment of death comes, this grammar is going to be of no use to you. Study of grammar is going to be no use to you. Not the study of Dukrinkarana in Sanskrit, not the study of Bain's English grammar in English. Says Bhagavan, this young Venkatraman naturally thought of what use is it? Why am I sitting and writing this? Again, Chandrasekhara Bharati Mahaswami, he has a beautiful composition in which he says, Sarvam vyartham marana samaye shambhamekam bhajeham. When the time of reckoning comes, when the time of death comes, everything becomes futile. But we do not think of that moment. Recently, there was a sharing of what was supposedly Lata Mangeshkar's one of her last messages, where she says, nothing but death is a reality. What is the use of all the money which I have in all the bank account? What's the use of all the cars? What's the use of having so many people who were to do my makeup? I had so many hairstylists. Now I don't even have hair on my head. Probably it was, maybe she had chemotherapy. One does not know. I can't even move. I have to go in a wheelchair. So it was a statement that ultimately what is left with us? So here Bhagavan says that the self is always there with us. So he was already established. Tivra. It was not a giving up of the external world for the sake of disgust in the world, not so much disgust in the world, nor was it giving up the external world in order to attain something. Normally, when we are told all this will not help you in the time of death, We want to hold on to that which will help us in the time of death. So there's a purpose to our holding the name of God, a purpose to our trying to abide in the self. There's a purpose. We want to achieve something. But here in Bhagavan's case, this young boy was already enveloped by the self. The Mahashakti Nipata had happened. Not by his conscious seeking at all. It had happened of its own accord. So there was nothing for him to seek. At the same time, when something is so beautiful, why would one pay attention to something which is meaningless? It automatically became meaningless. Everything else became meaningless to him automatically because of the glory of the experience of the self, because of the bliss of the experience of the self. See, even between desires, when we have something which is more pleasant to us, we forget about that which is less pleasant. When we have the offer of something which is bigger, then we lose count of the smaller one. If we are given a program in a very, very prestigious auditorium, a prestigious venue, a prestigious banner, and if at the same time we had actually been trying for some small program somewhere, we would not be worried about that small program. We would go for the big one, which the offer which has come to us. And sometimes I would think that, if a person, a school child, say maybe someone in the 10th standard, is doing a science project, that young boy is doing a science project, and he discovers something which is so transforming that he gets the Nobel Prize. He is awarded the Nobel Prize, the highest honor for science. After that, in his 10th standard, even if he stands the first in his class, in his state, or even in the whole of India, it may not be a great thing for him because he has found the highest recognition in the world. Similarly, for Bhagavan, the young boy, of what interest could Bain's English grammar be? Of what interest could anything be when he was being fed with that bliss, that ambrosia continuously by Arunachala? Why? Because Bhagavan says in Aksharamanamale, Sindittu Arutpada Silandipur Katti Sirayittundanai. You had already made your plan. Dr. Kalarani was telling us about the plan which Brahma makes for us. Arunachala had made a plan for Bhagavan, for that young boy Venkatraman. And the plan was to swallow him up. The plan was to bring him first to his physical presence, to bring him to his feet. And as Bhagavan writes later in Navamani Malai, the plan was to make him a vehicle for broadcasting Arunachala's glory to one and all. That was the plan. So Arunachala had to remind him, call him, bring him to himself. And this he did on that day, on the 29th of July, 1896. The plan began to unfold, which Vishwanatha Swami says, Pitrapadan Veshine Namaha. He set out in search of the feet of his father or in search of the state of his father. Ramana set out in search of that. How did he set out? He was writing the Bain's English grammar and got completely disinterested in it and put it aside, and he again got scolded by none else than his elder brother. None else than his elder brother Nagaswami. Nagaswami again told him, for one like this, what is the use of all this? What is the use of all this for one such as this? All this means being in the house, getting food, clothing, shelter, basically enjoying the comforts of the home. His remark was, if you want to be abiding in the self all the time, why a home for you? Why clothing and shelter for you? You be a renunciate. Now, did Nagaswami mean that his brother should take his words seriously? Did Nagaswami want his younger brother to actually renounce home? Far from it. He thought if he says this, then his younger brother will feel, oh no, I am at home, I need to be at home, I need food, I need clothing, I need shelter, therefore I must take on some responsibilities. But it had the opposite effect. In those words of his brother, which were no doubt similar to earlier words spoken by him, Bhagavan heard the call of Arunachala. The words of his brother became the words of Arunachala, saying, come, come to me. What use is anything else for you? Bhagavan's grace actually keeps calling out to every one of us from within us all the time as the heart, saying, come back, come to me, make this journey, search for my true state within yourself. Search for it, and find the glory of my feet within you. My feet are the self. My feet are the pinnacle. They are the height of everything. Arunachala's feet are found at the peak of Arunachala. When we climb to Uchimalai, the very peak of Arunachala, what do we find over there? We find Annamalayar Padam. Bhagavan's feet, Arunachala's feet are engraved there. So, Pitra Padanveshine Namaha. He searched for the feet of Arunachala. He decided, now I must go in search of Arunachala. And what a journey it was. To remember, even Bhagavan setting out on that journey is so auspicious and holy, because it reminds us of our true search, our true purpose, and that journey, every step of it is so beautiful to meditate on. But even the first call, the answering of the call, and the readiness to leave everything, he got ready to leave. Let us see the beauty of this journey, continue to meditate on the glory and the beauty of this divine union in the further satsangs to come. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramana.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the chanting of Arunachala Akshara Manamale by Srimati V. Radha and Vallabh Srinivasa.
Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. தேடாதுற்றன திருவருள் நிதியகத்தியக்கம் தீர்த்தருள் அருணாச்சலா. தைரியமோடும் உண்மையாக நாடையன் கட்டழிந்தேன் அருள் அருணாச்சலா. தொட்டருள் கைமை கட்டிடாய நிதிய நஷ்டமாவேன் அருள் அருணாச்சலா. தோடமில் நீயாக தோடொன்று என்றும் சந்தோடம் ஒன்றிட அருள் அருணாச்சலா. நகை கிளமில்லை நின்னாடிய என்னை அருள் நகையிட்டு பாணி அருணாச்சலா. நாடிலை நாடிட நானாயொன்றினி தாணுவா நின்றனை அருணாச்சலா. நின்னெறி எரித்தென்னை நீராக்கிடுமுன் நின்னருள் மழை பொழி அருணாச்சலா. நீ நானர புலி நிதங்கடி மயமா நின்றிட நிலை அருள் அருணாச்சலா. நுண்ணுரு உன்னையான் விண்ணூரு நன்னிட எண்ணலையிரும் என்றருணாச்சலா. நூலறிவறியா பேதையன் என்றன் ஆலறிவருத்தருளருணாச்சலா நெக்கு நெக்குருகியான் புக்கிட உன்னை புகழ் நக்க நான் நின்றனை அருணாச்சலா நேசமில் எனக்குன்னாசையை காட்டி நீ மோசம் செய்யாதருளருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா 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 அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சலம் வாழி அன்பர்களும் வாழி அக்ஷரமண மாலை வாழி.
Namo Ramana. We will now conclude the satsang with the Ashtottara Puja to Bhagavan at Sri Dilip Simha's altar. The Ashtottara Puja's chanting of Ashtottara will be done by Vaibhavji and Prarthana and Uma and Ashwini. We will have the puja now.
नमो रमण भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितं श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तर शतनामावलिः अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशे यस्योर्विमात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि. ॐ महासेन होंसेन जाताय नमः. ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः. ॐ गुरवे नमः. ॐ अखण्ड संविदाय नमः. ॐ जगौजसे नमः. ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः. ॐ जगद्दितावताराय नमः. ॐ श्री भूमिनाथ स्थलोस्थिताय नमः. ॐ पराशरपुरोत्तंसाय नमः. ॐ सुन्दरार्य तपःफलाय नमः. ॐ कमनीय सुचारित्राय नमः. ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः. ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीन मानसाय नमः. ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः. ॐ श्रीमद्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः. ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः. ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः. ॐ तीव्राय नमः. ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः. ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः. ॐ पितुरादेशतः प्राप्ताय नमः. ॐ भूमयाय नमः. ॐ उदासीनाय नमः. ॐ महायोगिने नमः. ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः. ॐ कुशाग्रदिये नमः. ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः. ॐ सन्तृषे नमः. ॐ सवित्रे नमः. ॐ स्थिराय नमः. ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः. ॐ लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः. ॐ चन्द्रिकासुतहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः. ॐ चूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः. ॐ चूर्णिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः. ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः. ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः. ॐ त्रिगुणात्मिकाय नमः. ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः. ॐ विराजितचिराहृदये नमः. ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः. ॐ पूर्णाय नमः. ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः. ॐ गम्भीराय नमः. ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः। ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः। ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणास्य निभाय नमः। ॐ धीराय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः। ॐ स्वराजे नमः। ॐ महर्षये नमः। ॐ भगवते नमः। ॐ ईड्याय नमः।
ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः। ॐ विमलाय नमः। ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः। ॐ आप्ताय नमः। ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः। ॐ समदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः। ॐ श्री शोणाचल हृद्भूतस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्छिन्नसंशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानामाराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविधायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादकसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ मृच्छान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणात् बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ शोणाद्रीशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगविषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः।
ॐ श्रीरमण भगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामपूजां समर्पयामि। यः स्थाणोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्या जनिं प्राप्य तद् दिव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाहविवशस्तादात्म्यभावं गतः निष्ठस्वगभीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनास्येकराट् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि दर्शन सुख मंगल मुख सकल जीवहित सम्मुख ब्रह्म संगिये सदा तुष्ट सदा हृष्ट सदा शिवानंद पुष्ट परम महर्षि ब्रह्मनिष्ठ समदर्शी नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि ನಮ್ಮ ಮನವದೊಂದು ಕಾಡು ನೀನರಿತಿಹೆ ಅದರ ಜಾಡು ಹಿತವನರಿತು ನೀಡುತ್ತೆಮ್ಮ ಕೊರೆಯ ತಣಿಸಲೈ ಬೇಡಲೆಂದು ಬಂದ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿಯೇ ತಣಿವೆವಯ್ಯ ಮೋಡಿಗಾರನೇ ಹಿತವ ನುಡಿದು ಪೊರೆ ನಮ್ಮನು ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಸಂಘಿಯೇ ನಮೋ 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 ರಮಣ ಸದಾಶಿವ ಪ್ರಭಾವರಣ ನಮೋ महर्षि नमो महर्षि नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि बोलो भगवान श्री रमण महर्षि की जय।
Jai.